Joining us today on this special episode of CNBC-TV18's Future Female Forward, we have with us Masoom Minawala. Hi Masoom, welcome to CNBC-TV18. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much for having me.
I would like to start by asking you, from being a blogger to an influencer to an entrepreneur and a book author now. Tell us about your entire journey. It's very inspiring. Can you shed some light on it?
So I actually started creating content when I was 18 years old with a blog. This was the pre-Instagram era.
Right.
And unfortunately, I think it was very early in the content creation ecosystem. It was very hard to monetize it and actually make it a business, which is when I started my e-commerce startup. And I think at some point I realized the power of content and the power of community, and I went back to the business of content creation.
Right. And talking about your book, She'll Never Make It, it aims on, telling people about how to achieve success for that matter. So what inspired you to start and, write about this book? What was the inspiration behind it?
I think the inspiration was that, like the book says, it says, the book title is She'll Never Make It. And that is something I've heard all throughout my life.
Yeah.
And Zenia, I've had to ask you this question. I think you might agree.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think women especially in India, have heard so much of "ye nahi kar payegi," you'll never make it.
Can you give us an instance?
Of course. And I think what happens is when we keep hearing it, it becomes our truth.
Yeah.
When it's actually not the truth, it somehow just becomes a truth that our subconscious mind takes in and begins to believe. I couldn't give you one instance. I think I could give you a million instances. But when I was raising in an investment for my e-commerce startup, and I would be in meetings with investors, they would tell me that I should get a male co-founder, as that would help me raise the funds. That would help me actually secure the investment. So at every point in life, I've been told that I'm not enough, or my dreams are too big, or I won't be able to do it, especially not without a male counterpart. Even this book, so the idea of this book actually came to me first 7 years ago. And finally, the person who brought it to me introduced me to her boss. We were in a meeting. He was a 50-year-old man from Delhi. I went to Delhi to do the meeting. And I think this book is almost dedicated to him, because he told me 7 years ago that you're never going to make it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He told me that, this seems like a failed attempt because nobody will buy the book. Nobody will buy a book that such a young girl has written. What would she really know about life? And I think even when I started my content creation journey, there have been so many questions. There's been so much doubt. Which is why it says from doubt. The journey has began from doubt, and there was so much doubt because everyone doubted what I was doing. Everyone said, what does she think she's doing, taking photos all the time, and this doesn't seem like a career, this doesn't seem like a business. And it's been an exciting journey, and that's what the book talks about. It's not a story of success. It's I don't think this is the connotation that I've made it today. I truly believe that I haven't made it yet, but I think what this book stands to say is that as women, especially today, it doesn't matter what they think or not. Their opinion is irrelevant, and their opinion is something we have to teach ourselves to disregard.
It's more like a lesson.
It's a lesson. It's a lesson in making your own choices and making your own decisions and being able to take that next step forward and keep your blinders on.
Right. Talking about that, you started off, I'm guessing, somewhere around 2011, 2012, where the social media platform wasn't that evolved. It wasn't as dynamic as it is today, like so many years later. What gave you the confidence to keep going? Because I'm sure they required a lot of push. I'm sure there might have been so many ups and downs, as you also mentioned that you weren't able to monetize it, right? So what was the driving force behind letting you constantly just move forward and forward despite of maybe the setbacks that you've had?
I think sometimes you find that conviction and the determination in the smallest and tiniest of things.
Right.
So when I was creating content and it was a blog and brands were refusing to pay me any sort of money to create content, and I said, you know what, people are right. How am I going to create a business out of this? Brands refuse to pay 10,000 rupees for a piece of content. But at that time, I saw how my community was reacting. I saw that they were hooked on, they were tuned in to the stories I was telling, to what I was able to share with them, to visually what I was depicting to them. And I knew I was onto something. You know, today the creator economy is predicted to be, I think, 3,000 crores in the next 2 years. But I had this instinct and I had this intuition a decade ago. I knew this would be an industry that would be formidable, that it would be something that everyone was going to look at and watch out for, because I had all the signs. I had all the little, I had all those little moments where I was like, this is going to change the world.
Also, but when it comes to that, I totally get your point, the vision that you had, that completely makes sense now. But, as someone, have there ever been names like you're privileged, that's why you've got this opportunity? Does it mentally affect you? And what was that, how does it change, the response that you get? I'm sure there might be backslashes. How do you handle all of that?
So, firstly, I am privileged. And I do think that's played a part in my journey, if I have to be very honest. So there was a time that, in fact, my audience corrected me.
Okay.
And they said, you have to accept this privilege because you're not accepting it right now. And they actually showed me the way. They corrected me and they showed me a side that I was not being able to see. Maybe I had too much of my blinders on. And that's when I actually realized that while I'm showing my life, it's also very important to show every aspect of it. I am privileged. It's important for me to accept and embrace that on a public platform where I talk about my work continuously. I am privileged and I have gotten so many opportunities because of the kind of comfort that I've been blessed with, that I've been born into, and nothing can change that. I think that is the true fact of the matter. And I think ever since then I've made a conscious effort that when I'm talking about my journey, I wanna try and give that disclaimer. And I have in the book, in fact, I actually talk about that privilege and I talk about embracing it, is because when you know the journey, you have to know that the privilege was a part of it.
How do you think we can collectively work towards achieving an equitable workspace?
I think fortunately for some and unfortunately for some, we don't live in a male-dominated society anymore. I think women are more and more owning their power.
Right.
And I think it's important that women and men alike in these leadership roles can actually turn to uplift the women who haven't been able to embrace it yet, right? I do think there's a certain section of society that today is receiving equal opportunity in the workspace, but I think there is so much more work that needs to be done in terms of opportunity, in terms of acceptance, in terms of respect. I think especially just becoming a mother recently as well, I think there is so much disparity about women returning to the workforce after becoming a mother.
Yeah.
And this is something that requires to be changed in mind shift. I think it's a mental shift that needs to occur, because I truly believe it's a very conscious
approach people need to take, right?
It's a very conscious approach. I think the mindset needs to shift, because today when I'm doing my interviews and I see a mom of two, I think that woman is so much more equipped than anyone else in the world to be multifaceted, to be more multitasking, to be more brave, to be more courageous, to be a risk taker at work, and most importantly, to be a team player. If you're a team player at home, you're going to be an even better team player at work. And I think we need to switch the lens in looking at motherhood as a strength today in the workforce, versus being a weakness which is looked at as today. So I think I could go on for days in terms of how we have to create that opportunity. But I do see some incredible women in India who are making that change and setting such a fantastic example for all of us.
There are often conflicting expectations for women when it comes to work and staying at home, and vice versa. What message do you want to give in terms of having that work-life balance and handling work as well as handling, things at home?
I think it's not the responsibility of a woman to handle a home alone. And this is the thought and this is the approach we need to change. It is not a woman's responsibility to manage work and to manage a home. I don't know who incurred this, or I don't know which book it's written in, but I truly believe that it's not. I think when you build a home, if you're an individual, it's your responsibility. If you're a couple, it's both your responsibilities. If it's a family, it's everyone's responsibility to take care of that home. And I think that is the thought we need to move forward with.
That leads to my last question before I let you go. As you know, social media is extremely dynamic, right? There's a lot of competition at the same time. What message would you like to give them in order for them to, not fall back and have that go-getter attitude in order for them to succeed?
I think I'd like to open this for not just women in content creation or the digital world, but women everywhere. I think it's time we understand, we embrace, and we accept that we can no more allow others to make decisions and choices on our behalf. It is going to require courage to fight that fight, but I think it's time that we're able to push that boundary. I think it's time that we're able to absolutely defy what someone's opinion or someone's estimation of us almost can be, of someone, if we were an industry and what somebody would predict for us to be in the future. I think we need to make those decisions, those choices, however hard, for ourselves.
I think we've got all our answers now. It was lovely having a chat with you. We've had a lot of inspiring conversations that have come out from this, and it was great. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Zenia.
HSBC presents CNBC-TV18's Future Female Forward, the Women's Collective, powered by Parity, Season 2.